Today on Independent Wrestling Profiles, we're talking with the Catalyst Tyler Aero. What's kind of your earliest memory of discovering professional wrestling and finding a passion for it?
See, my dad used to be a fan. He's not as much now. He kind of just checks social media and looks at my stuff or looks at just like getting himself up to date because he watched in the 90s. The earliest memory for me was definitely back in the days of VHS. For those listening who might not know what that is, it was before DVDs and streaming. Um, and we were kids, so we'd have to go off to bed when Raw was on or SmackDown was on. So he would just have to throw in the VHS tape and record it off the TV. Then we'd either wake up an hour or two early before school, or we'd come home from school and watch it then. And it was, my memory is kind of unclear, but it would have been probably like the 2002, 2003 era. So, it was just pre John Cena, but just the end of like The Rock and Lesnar and stuff like that. But man, yeah, like the memories there are foggy, but I remember sitting there, at least once or twice a week, popping in a VHS that was grainy and, you couldn't really make out half of the stuff at the time. Just those simple memories, the childhood fanhood, so to speak. Like we didn't get to go to many live shows. We didn't get to go to many indie shows. Truthfully, didn't know half of the indie shows existed until my late teen years. So a lot of it was just television, VHS tapes, and then ultimately into DVDs. A little less internet than we have now, but
It's awesome that you had that support, right? Because there is sometimes a stigma to parents not wanting their children to watch it, whether it's violent. Definitely that it wasn't the Attitude Era probably helps.
yeah, just after that, I had to go back and look at the rest of that. But yeah, my brother was a big horror movie kid, so I mean, if they were gonna let us watch horror movies and slasher films, like what's wrestling gonna do? Aside from some of the risque factors of it back in the day, like there's really no harm, no foul. Until you try it at home on your brother and one of you gets hurt, that's a different story.
I think everybody with a sibling has been in those shoes at some point. I know you said that your memory was kind of a little bit more foggy of those days, but do you kind of remember if there was any sort of performers or rivalries that really catered to making you latch on to the product?
Oh, early on, and this for me is like the pre-deathmatch stuff. Early on for me, it was the main three at the time would have been Eddie Guerrero, Shawn Michaels, and Jeff Hardy.
Okay.
Where in that time, I believe that was around the time Jeff Hardy first went away to TNA, if I'm not mistaken. Shawn Michaels had just come back from his back injury at the time, so it would have been probably '02. And Eddie was just getting in with had only been in for a couple of years, coming in with Malenko and Perry Saturn. So those three played a big part in what I ended up liking. And then obviously, a year or two later, John Cena coming in and making the waves that he made. Like, then I was a big John Cena guy for years, as I'm sure a lot of people were and still are given the retirement tour.
Do you know how early or when during that process you kind of started playing with the idea that hey, this might be something I'd be interested in? I know we all probably daydreamed about it. We weren't giving our siblings these wrestling moves, not anticipating it. But when did it become sort of like a little bit more of a serious spark in there that hey, no, this is something that when I grow up, I want to be a wrestler?
See, yeah, like you said, aside from like the childhood dream that we all go through, be it if it's a phase or if it's a legitimate want in your life, for whatever reason, I feel like I just had a bit of a more mature mind in the sense of I accepted early on that this ain't gonna happen. And then, and then from that point, I think it took another 10 years before I actually met somebody who gave me the shot to try to make it happen. And I was like, really? This is a thing I can do at the time living in Hamilton, Ontario. I'm like, this exists here, because I didn't know about the plethora of promotions that were just in the GTA alone. I got started at 16, and as soon as I found out I could do this more than once every few months or something like that. Because originally when I started, I was only wrestling my first 2 years, I had 6 matches. After that second year going into the third, I was like, wait a minute, like there's all of this that I'm missing out on. I'm not being told about it. I'm not being I'm not seeing posters. I'm not seeing promoting online, nothing like that. Because, like, again, I'm technologically illiterate some days. So I had no idea that all this was going on. And as soon as I found out, it was just like, all right, this is what I'm going to try and do. Whether it works, whether it doesn't work, I'm going to make something happen. And now, 10 years in, I can, if I had to, I mean, I almost had to call it a day with a knee injury, but I could have been mostly happy in that regard because the last 10 years has just been, consistent. Like this month alone is 10 shows, 9 matches being, I'm not sure when this goes up, but this being August, 10 shows, 9 matches. And 2 provinces, so I'm doing so much more than even as a kid I would have thought I would have had a chance to because we all get that thing where it's like, I'd love to be there, but will I make it there when you're watching TV? So the fact that I've been able to do as much as I've done in the 10 years since from that kid who didn't think he'd even get to be in a ring and being that teenager that didn't know the difference from a wrestling mat and a bath mat, like so I mean it's a gnarly journey in that sense, and it's that old saying, it's not the destination, it's the journey. If I brushed off the last 10 years of anything I've done, then what does it matter if I get anywhere 10 years from now, you know?
Fair point. Can you take me through that trigger event? You said that somebody kind of brought it to your attention that this is something you can do. Maybe the realization that it's not WWE or Boss. There are all these other promotions, but kind of where was your mentality at, and how did that come to be that you actually, took that advice and started pursuing the actual training?
See, I was in high school at the time. I believe I was 15 or 16. On again, off again, I would go to these charity events that were run by a guy that I knew, and there was a company called GWN. Well, they're not really around anymore. They might drop in for a spot show once every couple years or something along those lines. I ended up making friends with the man who ran those shows and promoted them. And I just asked as a question, more so like, because I didn't know wrestling school was a thing. I had no idea. There was a whole world I knew nothing about.
Mm.
So I was just trying to pull information out of people the best I could, and he was the only outlet. And I asked him, like, because he was a Hamilton guy, or he spent a lot of time in Hamilton. I was like, "Is there a wrestling school here? Or is there like a gym or something?" And he didn't give me the details of his start, but he was just like, "I got lucky. Why? Did you want to learn?" And I'm like, the 16-year-old me's like, I can learn this. Um, so I took up on that offer, and I got hooked up. I got stretched every week because they're trying to see if I'm going to stick around or leave. A bit of a different. I don't want to call it an initiation, but a different welcoming than a lot of wrestling schools are now. And yeah, I think it was between the summer of 2015 to the February of 2016 by the time I had my first match.
Okay.
And like I'd stated, they were spot shows and charity events, so they only ran 2, 3, maybe 4 times a year at most. And when you're now getting that itch for it, it's like, man, it's like I gotta do this February 28th, but now I have to wait until June 17th or whatever. And it's like, man, that's a gap.
Yeah, that's a lot of time to get stretched until that first match.
Yeah, exactly. So ultimately, it just got to a point where that company had slowed down and they stopped kind of running shows. And I sat around for 9, 10 months waiting for a call, waiting for a text message, waiting for something, and I never got anything. So I just started reaching out to people on social media, asking similar deals to how I got my start. Is just like, do you have a school near you? Do you have a gym near you? What's in the area? Because I have no idea, and I'm trying to Google things, and I'm not getting anywhere with it. If it's not on the first page of Google, I just give up. Ultimately, that's where someone hooked me up with Rip Impact School, Hamilton Pro Wrestling, and it was off to the races from there. Then I think from that point, it was 2018, and it's just been go, go, go ever since.
So it sounds like there was a lot of anticipation, a lot of waiting for that first match. And I know you said you didn't have too many in those first couple of years, but do you kind of recall how it felt to finally get that first match? Because it feels like, as you said, there was probably a lot of buildup waiting for that 9, 10 months. How
Yeah.
do you respond when you actually get the news? Okay, you're going to be booked on a show. This is your first match, and kind of how did you feel doing that first match?
Felt like I should have packed some adult diapers with me, if I'm being honest. Everything was pretty fine leading up to it. What really got me, and I didn't realize how much this actually happened until the years to come. I got to the venue that day, and it was supposed to be me and this other guy about to have his first match.
Okay.
And I don't think he's around anymore, but we had kind of talked over some like things we're working on and different because we're at different levels. We started around the same time, but we're he was a big man. I was a little 130-pound 16-year-old lying and saying he was 170. And we're in the back and we're just, prepping for the night. And they come up to us and they'd be like, "So there's a change of plans." Both of us, though, we just went ghostly white. We're like, "What do you mean change of plans? Like, it's our first match. We're not ready for a change of plans." They're like, "Well, you're now in a tag match and you're now opening, I believe we were opening the show or second on the card. It was me and another wrestler. And we're not ready for that. We don't have the experience to where when a plan changes day of, we're just going to take it on the chin and be like, let's go." Like, no. Fortunately for both of us, everything went perfectly fine. At least as fine as something could be in your first match, And it wasn't graceful. It wasn't pretty. I think the ref messed up our match and like the most important part of our match, but like, but it was just one of those things. Like afterwards, it was like one of those. Now that it's done, you get to take it in and realize how surreal it is. Because the biggest bit of advice I was always take is like soak everything in, because that 15 minutes goes away in 15 seconds if you're not enjoying it or you're not paying attention to it.
Mhm.
And in my first match, I'm not paying attention to anything. I'm not realizing that the crowd's making noise, if they're making noise, if there's 300 people there, if there's three people there. I'm not paying attention to any of that because I'm just worried about the match because I've never done this before.
Yeah.
Now it's one of those things where, in hindsight, if I had obviously the brain or the knowledge that I had now back then, obviously I would have taken my time with everything. I would have taken in the crowd. I would have acted as if they were there instead of just getting the match over with. But it's your first match. I see plenty of people having amazing first matches, but I also see people that are having ones where it's like you should have waited a couple more months. Like, and I was one of those people. I probably should have waited a couple more months at the time.
Well, it's probably overwhelming. I mean, you have a lot to go over, and it is your first match. It is never going to
Oh
be
yeah.
another first match, right? So it's
No,
understandable that you'd be kind of caught up in the moment. Appreciating it is definitely the right mentality for sure.
I don't take advantage of that now because, like I had said, like I had a knee injury that put me away for a few months. I had some personal problems in my life that required me to take a couple months off, and it's like you realize in those couple months you either miss it or you don't, and it also depends on your mentality. It was like a for me it was like a 50-50 of missing it and not missing it. And then when I finally did that one coming back, I was like, okay, yeah, I missed this. You know, like because it's more so just the schedule of everything. You get busy. And when you get to have a day to sit down, it's like, wow, it's like I haven't done this in 6 months. You know, we get to if we get to go like me and the wife, we get to go out for a dinner or something. It's like we actually have the time to do this and don't have anywhere else to be, don't have a town to be in, don't have to be in a car for 6 hours, 8 hours. Like so, but it's one of those things where everyone says you got to be like 100% in or 100% out. And it's like, no. It's like it's like anything in life. You can find a balance for everything.
Yeah, yeah, that's
All we have is time. It's how we manage it.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
amazing. So I do want to ask, I'm speaking to every member of Airstrike XL. Could you just tell me in your words kind of how that tandem faction came to be?
well, because Airstrike had been in existence probably since 2019, I believe, being just me and Mike Forte. And we'd been on a run. We'd done so much together. Like even to this point, we've probably held 10 championships together.
Wow.
Like spent so many nights in rooms or sleeping on floors in gyms because we didn't want to go home to come back this way the next day or whatever, anything like that. And it got to a point. It's like, well, what's next for us? We've done it. And like, well, but there's obviously more opportunities. Like, there's obviously more goals we can set. But at this very moment, it's like, what can we do? And we find out. Well, not that we found out because we held them prior, but we had Pro Wrestling Ontario has a trios division,
Hmm.
and there was talk about throwing us in there. And we'd already been with the guy named Scumbag Yates and we held the belt championships with him for probably a year or something along those lines. And it was like, well, we can't go back there because he's a d bag.
Okay.
The crowd doesn't like him; they like us. And the crowd was kind of finicky on me because of some decisions I made in the ring. And then it got to this point where it was like I started dipping my foot in the hardcore wrestling, the deathmatch pool, which is where I ended up meeting PD Skills. And we similar to me and Mike, it was that first meet was like we'd known each other for years. Like me and Mike got put together after a match. We had one match against each other. We'd only really seen each other a handful of times. And the company's like, "You guys want to be a team?" And we're like, "Let's give it a shot." Ontario's lacking tag teams at the time and still kind of is. It was just a fluke being put together. And at the time, we both had really long hair. And it was one of those things, you guys got long hair. You both do flips. You want to be a team? It was like, all right, whatever. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. And fortunately, we've been really, it was like we were lucky on the timing because, like I said, at the time, I could have probably counted on one hand how many consistent tag teams there were. And to this day, out of those five, there's probably two that we still face on a frequent basis. It was just one of those things where it was time for something new. And when they floated a couple of names past us, I think the game maybe gave us two or three names to be our third. I didn't even have to listen to the other two because the first one was PD Skills, and I'm like, let's do it. Because him and I had a great relationship. Like we're all three of us are so very different. Which, so like with me and Mike are polar opposites, but we work so well together.
Hmm.
That was the deal with three of us. Aside from our sense of humor, we're all so different. We've all had different experiences doing this. We've all had different life experiences. We're also very different in age. I think that like I'm the youngest, but such an age difference between all three of us that it's like we've all got different parts of life that the one after us doesn't have. So we all get to teach each other. We all get to work together. We all get to collaborate. There's things they know I don't that they can share with me. There's things I know they don't that I can share with them. And it's just a never-ending learning cycle or a learning tree, I guess. It's going down to the next branch as we go. And truthfully, especially over just coming back from the pandemic at the time, it was some of the most fun I got to have in that time period. Even just like some of the promos we were putting out, some of the videos we were editing, and then when we finally got to do matches and bring that entertainment of the promos and of the segments to life for an audience, it was so much fun. And to this day, there's two of my best friends. Like, and not even just in wrestling. Like I'm on the phone with them every week if I don't get to see them, because even PD Skills lives in Windsor. That's 5 hours from me. I'm in Brampton. That's an hour and a half from Mike, who's in Hamilton. Like, so we're all so far apart, but we work so well together. We gel. Our personalities work somehow. Like, I think Mike doesn't like how much fast food I'll intake sometimes, but that's neither here or there. I try my best to eat clean, but Mike's always on me about that because he's a frequent gym guy, frequent meal prep guy, and all two of them, I wish I could have that discipline. I'm working on it.
Well, I do have to say, I've had the privilege to see Airstrike work as a tandem. I've even seen you guys compete against each other, bloody each other up. And one thing
Yeah,
that is very important to the team that any team should really have is the chemistry. You can't fabricate that. And you guys clearly have it. Speaking of which, I did see you and PD Skills once bloody each other up in a hardcore match. And I do have to ask, I like to explore with the deathmatch stuff. It's not for me. I don't have the stomach for it. I'm one of those people where if I have a risk of getting hurt, I shy away from it. So I
yeah,
like to
yeah.
explore the mentality for people that do it. How do you prepare yourself mentally for the punishment that you're going to take when you do hardcore deathmatch wrestling? Not that there isn't risk involved with any type of match, but
Oh,
you have to kind of run into the danger headfirst knowing there's a higher probability. How do you navigate that?
Well, for me, there's like it's almost like a kind of a story that goes into it. It's a whole love of the game kind of thing. I discovered relatively early on that I was a big fan of, at the time, like the WWE hardcore. The Cactus Jack, when Terry Funk came in for his run there. Yeah, like even just so much as the street fights, like the unsanctioned street fight of Triple H and Shawn Michaels in 2002, I believe it was.
Hmm.
Um, Funny enough, Triple H was in a lot of these matches because then it was Cactus Jack and Triple H that might have been Over the Edge. I can't remember the pay-per-view. But then as I got older, I discovered who ended up being one of my very prominent role models in some way. And as much as he doesn't love that aspect, is Sick Nick Mondo.
Okay.
It's not that he doesn't love it, it's the aspect of, even in his movie The Trade, he explained, he's like, he doesn't discourage anyone from doing deathmatch wrestling, but he wants everyone who does it to know that there's a time frame for it, where there's a window where you might have to call it.
Hmm.
And some people don't know where that window is, and they end up seriously hurt as a result. Or 20 years from now, they got numerous joints replaced, be it if it's their hips, their knees, their shoulders, whatever, which I totally understand. But we've gotten to talk a couple of times, him and I, and he's been nothing but great and supportive to me. Um, and by far one of the nicest guys I've had the chance to talk to. Terry Funk was another, like, because Terry Funk was one of those guys. I looked at him as a very big role model in the sense that this is a man who was a wrestler, just a down and dirty technician, a little rough around the edges, but he was a wrestler. Then him and his brother Dory, they were a tag team, and they did amazing things in tag team wrestling and for tag team wrestling. And then it was time for ECW, and it was time for him to go to Japan to do FMW, and he thrived. Like, sure, he wasn't the most finesse by the time he was in his 50s and 60s doing this stuff when he really didn't need to be. But it was inspiring because it's like I looked at that as a sense of, like, this is a man that he could go to any show, and if anybody for whatever reason had to cancel or pull out of the show, they can rely on Terry Funk to fill a spot
Hmm.
if he's not already involved in something important. And I took that very, like everybody should be like that. Not necessarily get into deathmatch wrestling, but be a singles wrestler, be a tag team wrestler, be in a faction, be versatile, because you never know when the opportunity is going to knock. And if you're not familiar in that opportunity and you got to learn on the spot, you might not get that chance a second time.
Hmm.
And if you do, it might not be for 6, 7 years after that. So I know I kind of went away from the initial question, which I'll answer now. Uh, Preparing for something like that, it's like, yeah, understandably, yes, things are going to go into it hurt. But it was like, I heard Connor Claxton said at one point on, I believe it was a Vice documentary, a lot of it a lot of it's more psychological than it is physical,
Hmm.
in the aspect that it's going to hurt, but you're anticipating it to hurt more than it's actually going to. It's like something like for example, thumbtacks.
Yeah.
I've taken numerous bumps into thumbtacks over the years now, and everybody's always like, "Man, that's like, how could you do that? How could you do it to yourself?" Like, because everyone knows what a thumbtack feels like. If you put your hand down on one, it sucks, absolutely. But it's one of those things where in that moment, it seems so much worse. But I like to compare it to a bed of nails. People can lay on a bed of nails and be perfectly fine, but if you step on a nail and it goes through your foot, that's obviously painful.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's a similar thing. The falling into the thumbtacks is not the issue. For me, the issue is if I'm not wearing elbow pads or something and I have to slowly get up out of these thumbtacks and they're slowly pushing into, like, the bones of my elbows or my wrists or my hands, that's what hurts. Sure, the bump's not great for a couple of seconds, but I forget about it pretty quick. And then as soon as I go to get up and now I have them stuck in my elbows or something, that's where it starts to suck. But it's definitely, to me, a more mental thing. Like, what it is visually to other people, it's not half as bad physically to me. It's a weird dynamic. I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt. It 100% does. When you anticipate it, it's going to hurt more. But you kind of just got to break that barrier where we'll be like, sure, it's going to hurt, but it's going to work. Something like that, if that makes sense. And to this point, like there's been some things that have hurt. Don't get me wrong, there's been things that have really hurt. Um, but I've been hurt more times wrestling in a regular sense, be it if it was someone that just their kick clipped the back of my head, or I got dropped a certain way and my shoulder went out, or something along those lines. The worst I have gotten to this point, fortunately, and I don't have any wood to knock on, so to this point, I've never been injured doing hardcore deathmatch wrestling. I broke my nose once, but that had nothing to do with the style of wrestling. That was a moonsault off of a stage that instead of going out, I went up and I came down and I hit my face on the stage
Ooh.
that I was moonsaulting off. So that had nothing to do with being hit with a chair or getting hit with a barbed wire bat, nothing like that. That was solely just a miscalculation on a move that I've done a million times, and it just happened. Like, but no, it used to be scarier than what it is now.
Okay.
It like anything, like your first regular wrestling match. Again, like I said, I should have stocked up on adult diapers. First hardcore match and then first death match, should have stocked up on those. But then after the fact, it's like, okay, we got through that barrier. What's next? Like you take that time to enjoy it, reflect on it. A lot of people don't like to watch their footage. I do because I use it to learn. It's no different how I look at boxers watching their last fight. Well, if they have a rematch with that person, they got to find out what they did wrong. And the only way you can take word of mouth, you can take the reaction of the audience, but you can really learn if you look and find it yourself. A lot of people are like, I can't go back and look at my footage. Screw that. Like, I don't believe in that. The only way you get better is by studying, be it if it's studying yourself, studying others, and obviously the training. But you don't know what you're training for if you're not studying for what you're training, or vice versa. However that works. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting a little excited.
That's okay.
To me, I'm the biggest critic of myself, but you have to be. It's there's no way around it. If you're not, if you walk around thinking that nothing that your crap don't stink, well then where do you go from there? If your crap don't stink and you're already perfect, there's nothing next. But if you're perfect and you're not the top guy anywhere, respectfully, you're not perfect. Because then you'd be the guy. And if you're not the guy, you're not perfect. And even the guy's not perfect. Let's make that clear. There's room for improvement for everybody. It doesn't matter if they've been 20 years in, if they've been 2 years in, if they've been 2 months in, there's room for improvement everywhere. And if it's not your thing and you don't want to learn it, that's fine, but you're still not perfect. I feel like that's what a lot of people forget, that if you strive for perfection, you're never satisfied. You can have that level of discipline on yourself by all means, but you also got to give yourself a chance to smell the flowers of where you're currently at. And
No, absolutely.
I feel like a lot of people forget that if you're so worried about where you're going to be 10 years from now, you can worry about that, but then your last 10 years are going to go away like that.
Fair, fair.
And like I said, it's the journey, not the destination. Everyone has a different prerequisite for what's making it or what's success. Everyone's is different. Some people, they're fine with a couple weekends a month. That's great. I support that. Some people, they want it to be every single weekend. I support that too. Some people want it to be, okay, I'm doing 3 months in Canada, but then I'm going to do 6 weeks in Japan. And then I'm going to come back for a couple weeks and I'm going to go to Europe. That's great too. It's just so many people get caught up in what the end goal is that they forget about what they're doing in the moment. And again, I know I'm rambling.
That's okay.
I answered the question and then I went on something completely different.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't stop people from talking. All right. So the next thing that I want to do is ask you about career highlights. I'm sure there's a lot to go over, but if I was to ask you, what are some of the key moments that stand out, whether they be matches, fan interactions, a meeting with maybe, a personality that you had never anticipated before? What are kind of the first things that come to mind when you think back on your career?
I was very proud of one match that, truthfully, I don't know if I was even ready for, experience wise, mentally, whatever. But I got to wrestle the Blade from AEW,
Okay.
from the Butcher and the Blade.
Hmm.
He was filling in because I was supposed to wrestle Ethan Page at the time.
Oh, wow.
but Ethan Page was, if I'm not mistaken, Impact at the time tag team champions.
Okay.
So the scheduling just didn't work. So the Blade ended up filling in for him. And the only complaint I have about that match is the venue we did it. The venue had a very low ceiling. It was a small, like Legion Hall. And to me, at least in that stage of my career, that match at that time was one of my best.
Okay.
You know, it was the middle of summer, the air conditioning was off, it was a small venue, but it was such a good match. And I was so disappointed at the end of it solely because of that. Because even he was saying, he's like, we could have done so much more if this was a bigger room.
Mhm.
Because I believe the finish was a tombstone. And he picks me up for this tombstone, and my leg kicks a light fixture on the
Oh.
ceiling. I'm like, okay, like neither of us are that tall to where I should be kicking the ceiling when I'm in a tombstone position.
Mhm.
But that was definitely to this point still like with even just some of the advice about the in ring and the words of encouragement and everything from him. Like that was by far like that was one of my first early moments that still hold near and dear to me by far. Honestly, as funny as this one is, we got shut down because of COVID. What I think the second or third week of March of
Mhm.
2020.
Mhm.
That was mine and Mike's first time getting a tag team championship together. The day, 2 days before we got shut down,
Oh.
we did a show in Peterborough at the time, and there was a lot of restrictions starting and rapidly growing. Like this show ended up having to be 100 fans. That's it, and like they made that cap then like the week before the show.
Okay.
They were like, if we can do it, the only way we can do it is with 100 people, and we're like, well, if we're gonna make it happen, let's make it happen. You know, we because no one knew what was gonna happen. Like we're just like 100 people. All right, like I was kind of bummed about it, but obviously I ended up understanding because we saw what ended up happening. Um, but we had wrestled this team Empire, and still to this day, still wrestle them. And by that point, I can't remember how many times we had already faced each other, but it was just this year-long feud at least. I don't know how many matches, but like between three or four companies, a year-long feud. It was time to have the tag team titles on the line, and we ended up working. I think we opened the show because it was a Hamilton company that was collaborating with a show in Peterborough. It was the first time, like half of these people didn't even know us, but it felt like the win there meant so much more with these people that didn't know us because we got an insane ovation for it. And I don't know if it's because everyone knew we were going away after that. I didn't know if it was because they don't get a lot of stuff out there or if it was just because we did our job. I have no idea. But it felt like it meant so much more in that regard to win my first tag title with Mike Forte with that kind of audience.
Mhm.
Because there's so many factors into playing as to why they were acting that way, and we still don't have an answer. But it just meant so much to both of us, and that was the start of what ended up being, and not in an egotistical way, one of the most decorated tag teams in Ontario, if not potentially Canada.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and I at least want to come up with one more. And truthfully, it's probably more on the deathmatch side because a lot of my things, to most people, a lot of my highlights, to most people, don't seem big, but they're what mean the most to me
Yeah.
in that regard.
And that's why I say milestone matches, not necessarily best matches, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
just while you think about that, I just want to echo a point for anybody listening. This is why you take stock of the moment. First chance to win the tag titles, and then 2 days later, the pandemic hits, everything's shut down. You have no idea what's going to happen. Enjoy that moment in the moment. But sorry,
Oh yeah, no, we didn't even get to defend those probably until almost 2 years later, realistically.
Mhm.
Like the company had counted our title reign, and I was like, no, no. I was like, I'm not going to be a 2 year reigning tag team champion, and we haven't even defended them yet. Like that's kind of how I look at that. Um, but the last one, what I'm going to go with, I'm picking between two, but I'm going to go with I had a match against Evan Greenaway
Mhm.
at one of Rip's shows, and it was for the HPW championship. That was a period of time where I was second guessing everything. Like I wasn't happy with the world and myself in it at the time.
Mhm.
and I was just trying to find a bunch of answers to questions I didn't even know that existed. So I was spinning the gears for so long, and it was one of those things where I wasn't happy with any of the matches I'd been having, and nothing against the people that I'd been working with. It was my own insecurities, my own self doubt, and a lot of my own. It was all in my head, and I had this feeling of not belonging.
Okay.
And I didn't tell anybody, but if I wasn't happy with that match, win, lose, draw, that none of that mattered. If I wasn't happy with my performance, that was going to be a wrap for me.
Oh, okay.
I didn't tell anybody about it because I didn't want people influencing my decision that night. Like if I was happy with it, I was taking off my boots and hanging it up.
Wow.
That match ended up being the best match I think I had under Rip's banner in the 7 years I'd been with him, or maybe 5 at the time, or 6 at the time. But it was that the title win was great and everything. But me and Evan have gone back since 2018.
Hmm.
He was one of the first guys I worked with when I got back into things after those 2 years of 6 matches.
Hmm.
So we developed a great friendship and a great relationship, and we're two of those people that it's like we'll apologize now and we'll go out there and beat the hell out of each other and we'll have fun doing it. And it's exactly what we did that night. It was one of those things. He knew something was off, and at the end of the match, um, I'm not gonna put out publicly what he has said to me,
Hmm.
but in the ring, we were talking, and he I can't say we were talking. He was talking.
Okay.
Like he wanted me to hear the things that I didn't know I needed to hear.
Okay.
And he played a big part in my clarity, so to speak. And even to this day, if I have problems, if I have like just like a self-doubt issue or like just something like that, he's one of the guys I message because he's one of the guys that's the first to tell me like shut the up.
Hmm.
Like he's like don't listen to this because this isn't exactly always the brightest or the nicest. And it's for everybody. Like it can be a rough place up there sometimes. As much as he's a guy that I've wrestled like 50 times to this point, that one match specifically meant so much to me because it was one of those things where he showed me, he verbalized to me, and he just expressed to me not as another wrestler, as just another human. Things are going to be fine
Hmm.
in that regard. So there's a big emotional factor behind that one for me that makes it stand out. Because to most people, yeah, it was just a title match on our coach's wrestling show. But to us, it was, or I don't know, man, I don't know about to him, but to me, it was so much more of that because it was a big reason as to why that was probably 2022.
Hmm.
That in almost going into 2026, I'm still doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. And the
And
audience
it's just
can't see the pressure you put on yourself, the stakes that you put on that match. They're just enjoying the show, but there's so much to the other side of the coin too.
100%. And one day I will express that story in length. But like for now, it's just that one thing between the two of us that's just we know that's there.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I'll give you that story too one day. We'll film it and everything. It'll be great.
That sounds good. I look forward to it.
We can do a whole episode of that top to bottom day.
All right. So obviously you did get through that match. You continued your
Yeah,
career. You've been going strong since, and you've done a lot. I see advertisements for you all over the place, every company, all the types of destinations, but I have to ask, what's still on the bucket list? I know that it can end at any time, but if before that happens, you had the opportunity to travel to this destination or work for this company or face this opponent, what's still on the bucket list that you would like wrestling to take you to, whether that's as a singles or even as a faction with Airstrike?
yeah, yeah. I want to do a European tour. I don't know how to go about it. There's people I can talk to about it and ask about it, but I don't care if it's 2 weeks or if it's 6 weeks. It could
Hmm.
be 6 weeks and I only do 3 shows. It could be 2 weeks and I could do 14 shows.
Hmm.
But I would love just because like anyone that I talked to that has gone there and come back, I have nothing but good things to say about it. And I've been fortunate enough to meet a couple that have come out this way for their own wants and needs and exposure and experience and whatever.
Mhm.
And it just sounds like a great atmosphere and a great experience. Like, it's, like my grandmother's from England,
Okay.
and she moved into Canada at a young age, but from her and her family, I've heard nothing but awesome things. Like, and I know, like, there's a whole thing like about their food and stuff, man. I like their food. I don't even care. Sausages and mashed potatoes, bangers and mash. That's my thing. I don't care. Um, but even just like some of the guys over the years, like the Will Ospreys,
Mhm.
they're producing talent like that.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say they're producing it because it's Will Ospreay doing the work, but it's just, I don't know. It's a weird thought process, but it's just all those concocted into one cup, and it seems like an appealing drink to try. You know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, wrestling is the avenue that will take you to those destinations, right? So it's a twofold bonus, really.
Oh, absolutely. That's the most prominent one that I think the earliest one I could make happen. That's
Okay.
what I think.
Okay.
Because ultimately, I'd love to do some work in Japan at some point. That's always been a thing. You know, I'm a little more biased towards like the hardcore aspect in Japan. I like one of my favorites is that Sushi Onita. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but he's basically the guy known for the exploding barbed wire death matches. He is gnarly. The work him and Hayabusa did together, some of my favorite. Him and Terry Funk had some of my favorite. Like, so but that one I feel like will take a little bit more time,
Okay.
but it's still on the list. Like, cause I'm better at writing things down. So like in my head, I have like those two things are the only things off the top of my head. If I sat down with a pen and paper and wrote down 10 goals, I could do that no problem. It would be hard to pick just 10, but I'm also realistic in the sense of like, don't set 50 goals and try to achieve them all. You can set 50 goals, but worry about the first five or the
Mhm.
first three, because the most important one is that first one, anyways. Because you got to break through that barrier of like, 'cause I'm a big procrastinator. I don't like doing my laundry. I don't like folding it. I don't like doing dishes. I don't like doing any of that stuff. It's always I sit there and I'll do it later. So for me, it's like, I can set these 50 goals, but that first one's the important one because that's the breakthrough. That's that threshold I have to cross because now I'm starting it. Because if you said 50 goals and you're like, well, how do I get to 50? Well, then you're not going to get to those other 49. You might as well just
Mhm.
have the 50,
Mhm.
right? Like it's like that whole the perfect nine.
Mhm.
It's like that.
Well,
But
you got to know your goals too, because even
yes,
like with the wrestling world, anything can happen. Replacements, injuries, random
yeah,
calls. If you don't know what number 47 is, you might not be open to the opportunity if it comes knocking. You have to know what you want, even if it's not what you're directly working towards, to be open to it, right? So,
that's where that saying that I've heard from so many guys over the years, just always stay ready. We on the opportunity, on the chance you get a slow weekend, that might be your biggest opportunity because something changed.
mhm,
Like you said, someone couldn't make it, someone had to pull out, someone got double booked, whatever the case may be. You might be the guy they come to for an opportunity.
mhm,
You might not be ready for it, but you might be ready for it and might not even know it. So it's always good, yeah. I strongly believe in that. You always got to stay ready because you never know what's behind the next door. You don't even know if the door's there, but like if it's there and you're not ready, then unfortunately, like, and I've been guilty of it. There was times where I wasn't ready for an opportunity, and I unfortunately squandered it, be it by performance or by lack thereof. Like I've 100% been in that scenario, which is why I advocate so heavily for it. I lost opportunities because I wasn't ready for them. Now I am ready for them, or at least I think I'm ready for them. I let the fans be the judge of if I actually was.
mhm. Yeah.
But like even as a babyface, most people have been booed out of a building once, at least once. Even every great musician has been booed off of a stage in a bar once. So 100%. It's just a matter of be it if it's your physicality, if it's your mentality. It's just stay ready for something.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to fail, right? Take the
Absolutely.
opportunities. Failure
There's
is a
there's
learning opportunity as well.
there's no greatness without failure, and a lot of people lose sight of that.
Mhm, mhm.
Because it's not you're just destined to fail. There's a reason in there somewhere. You find that reason, you work on it. That's life. That's life. You can work at a car dealership and get fired. Why'd you get fired? All right, next car dealership you go work at, that's what you got to work on. Could be your
Uh,
communication skills, could be your sales tactics. Doesn't matter. Like there's a reason in failure, and sometimes it's not just a lesson. Sometimes it's just how it is. Like, and it's accepting that sometimes failure. Well, no, it's not. Sometimes failure is always an option.
mhm.
It's really up to you how to bounce back from it, how to come back from it, how to improve it, how to fix it, how to get ahead. Like it's always there no matter what, even if you can't see it. Because something could be you could be on top of the world. Tomorrow you're gone. We've
Mhm.
seen it with some of the releases,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
like I'm like I'm not gonna go down the list because there's been a list, but it's like some of the releases, someone's on a hot run and it's like, all right, future endeavored. And it's like, wait, why? Like
There's always something. Could be backstage attitude. We don't see every aspect of it, but you have to
100%,
be ready.
100%.
So let me narrow that question down a little bit further then, and you don't have to confine yourself to reality, but who is the dream opponent? If I could wave a magic wand and say, tomorrow you have a match against anybody that you ever wanted.
Can I give a couple of answers?
Yeah,
Okay,
of
because I
course.
have, because I have wrestling opponents
Okay,
and then I have deathmatch opponents.
sure.
So I'm going to give two from each.
Sounds good.
In wrestling, I would love to mix it up with Joey Janela.
Okay.
In a dream match sense, I wish I was fortunate enough to live through the Shawn Michaels era.
Mhm.
I'm going to do a two-part on that because I'd also love to work Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy in a wrestling match would be a lot of
I
fun
mean,
for me.
technically, he is still wrestling.
Exactly.
He hasn't
Exactly.
retired, so
Exactly. So it's possible. From the deathmatch side, he'd never do it. Sick Nick Mondo
okay.
and John Moxley.
Yeah, that I can see why that's on there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the four, technically five, on those two lists. At least as of now. Those lists change all the time, but at least one of the names always stay on the list.
Well, and that's why I say, like, you never know. Anything can
Yeah.
happen. I'm pretty sure Joey Janela is in our neck of the woods recently too,
Yeah.
right? So,
I
it,
also want to work Connor Claxton in a death match because I met him at the Kings of Crazy in Quebec and always been a fan of his, and we hit it off greatly. And I'm trying to make that happen. I mean, I've tried talking to him and being like, hey, so like I know traveling isn't the funnest, but what would it take to get you back here? You know, I'm doing the politicking, but not with the company, with the guy himself. You know,
yeah, yeah, he has to agree, right? So,
exactly, absolutely.
so I normally ask everybody this question to close out, and I don't
Okay.
want this to be any different, although I feel like we've covered it very thoroughly already. If you were to be able to go back and talk to a younger version of yourself who was just getting into the industry or debating getting into the industry, what's the most important piece of advice that you wish you had at that time that maybe somebody listening right now could take with them into their journey?
That's the first time I've been asked that question on a podcast level. And I'm glad you asked it because I have had this talk with my wife numerous times. And the biggest thing is a lot of people always say, mouth shut, ears open.
Hmm.
And that's fine. But where a lot of my faults were, and I'm not going to blame the people because it was my decision, is I took a lot of advice that I should have just ignored
Hmm.
because the advice might have worked during the territory eras. It might have worked for certain people, but there was a lot of advice. I took everything in like a sponge and did not know what to do with any of it to the point where all I did was utilize the advice that turned out to be bad advice.
Hmm.
So, what I would have explained to myself 10 years ago is listen to everything, but pick and choose what applies to you.
Hmm.
Because there was so much advice that I took that didn't matter to me, that did nothing for me, and truthfully, in some cases, made things harder for me.
Hmm.
Like, there's a line, like, honestly, there's no one right way to do this. Like, what I go through is not the same as what Mike's going to go through. What Mike goes through is not going to be the same that PD goes through. And anything we go through isn't the same thing that someone went through 40 years ago. Everyone has a different journey, has a different destination, and everyone has different experiences. So, like, this is just going to be like a bread and butter statement in the sense of like, it could be so much as take every booking. That doesn't necessarily work for everybody.
Mhm.
Like it worked for me at times. It didn't work for me at times. It's great for especially a lot of new people breaking in. It's like, yeah, get your reps in because you can have all this time in training, but all this time in training and all this time in front of an audience are two different animals. 15 minutes in training feels like a lifetime because you're blowing up, you're gassing for air, everything. 15 minutes in front of a crowd goes away what feels like that. And before you know it, it's like, man, I should have done this, should have done that, should have done this. But it only felt like 15 minutes. And then you go back and you're like, no, it was 15 minutes. I just don't remember much of it because of the adrenaline and all that other stuff. But no, 100%, 100% for me, it's the listen to everything with your ears, but you don't have to take in everything. Or no, the other way around. Take everything in, but you don't have to listen to everything because not everybody's right about everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like giving people advice because to me that seems like something that you have to take if I'm giving you advice. If someone comes to me for what would be considered advice, I always preface it with, in my experience,
Mhm. Mhm.
followed by the statement. And then I generally close it. That might not work for you.
Mhm.
I might be wrong. I very well could be wrong. That's what worked for me. So what works for me might not work for you. If you want to try what I'm telling you, by all means, but I'm telling you it might not work because you're not me. And that's solely the biggest thing for me is just the people still worried about learning everything that they don't realize that learning everything is also learning bad behavior as well
Mhm. Mhm.
or learning a bad mentality. And it's like, sure, everyone's got their quirks, their flaws, and their problems, but you objectively, you I'm trying to come up with an analogy here. You wouldn't filter coffee with a Red Bull, right?
Well, I mean, you said it yourself. You're taking everything in like a sponge, but a sponge has a limit. What happens when you hit that? Liquid starts to seep out, right? So you don't
Absolutely.
want to make sure that you're not losing the good stuff. But I get it and I appreciate what you're saying. I think it is valuable. I hope people are listening.
Yeah.
So before we sign out, can you just let people know once again who you are and maybe where they can follow you on social media if they want to keep up with what you got going on?
Well, I am a professional idiot. Um, but no, I'm on every social media platform for the most part. I got my Facebook profiles, which is Tyler Aero. I got Instagram, which is Tyler Aero, but the second E is a three because I thought it looked cool. Uh, Same with my Twitter profiles. I have TikTok and YouTube. I don't use either of them as much as I used to. My YouTube has a bunch of past content for people who might want to check it out or see what I looked like when I had hair. Um, like, there's a lot of stuff up there. I try to get into it, but man, just with the time and editing my own stuff, and I don't want to pay somebody to edit my stuff. Like it's just timing and everything. But that's where I can be found. Like trying my best to do a lot of things out there. I've been spending some time out in Quebec lately, so if this reaches them, they can. People out there can see me out there when everything's posted on my social media. I don't like to give dates on video because like just the timing of when things can get uploaded, when they get scheduled, when they get filmed. But seems like I'm going to be going back and forth between Ontario and Quebec for quite a while now. So there's a lot of places I can be found and seen, and people can witness the calculated stupidity firsthand.
Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Independent Wrestling Profiles. Please help out the show if you can with a like, subscription, or review. We'll see you next time.
This program is a proud part of the Swear to Pod Network.